Castle upon Tyne in the UK. To set the expectations for today's session, the first part, led by Dr. Manoj Kumar, will focus on national, international semiconductor initiatives, industry academia partnership opportunities, and emerging research priorities and trends. The second part, led by Mr. Gauravjit Singh, will address how to publish your research effectively and choosing the right publication formats and outlets, and the impact of AI in publishing research. This will be followed by a short interactive Q&A session, and then we will conclude with a brief overview of Taylor and Francis's open access resources. Before we begin, here are some housekeeping rules for everyone to keep in mind. Attendees are all encouraged to join from a laptop or a PC for a seamless experience. And if you have any questions or face any issues during the session, please drop your message in the Q&A section. We will note down your questions throughout, and they will be addressed during the Q&A at the end of the session. And with that, I now invite Dr. Manoj Kumar to share his insights with us.
Thank you, Marvin, for a very kind introduction. Allow me to share my screen. Please make me presenter again.
Yes, you've been made a presenter, sir.
Okay. Hope all is good and it is in full screen.
So we're just waiting for your screen to load.
Okay.
We're just waiting for your screen to load. Yes, it's visible now, sir.
It's good. Okay. All right. So thank you for kind introduction. I will not speak much about ST Microelectronics or about myself. A key comment: all that I have brought together today to contextualize about the semiconductor is content that is available on internet anyways, and on each page I have provided the reference. Particularly, it is a presentation hosted by a publication, so it's a mandatory for me to mention all the sources. All right. How I have managed my presentation is I will give you an overview of global ecosystem of semiconductors. What are the initiatives by different countries and why? And what is landscape of Indian semiconductor? And then questions and answer after my presentation or at the end. I understand that Taylor and Francis would like to receive questions through email also, so they may say in the end as to how you can ask questions, if any. Semiconductor, as I understand, the audience is from a research university or industry domain, so probably you understand what semiconductors are, and in the given 15 minutes I can only speak about the broad perspective. One perspective that I want to share with you is that there have been multiple waves in terms of research, innovation, and applications of the semiconductors. The first one was led by the military applications way back and after World War II. Then there was a wave that came through the consumer electronics revolution brought by Japan. And then, of course, there was this PC and laptop and every kind of PDA kind of revolution that was led by US. And finally, current wave that still continues is led by the smartphones, where there is a rise of TSMC and likes in the Asian region. Important aspect about the semiconductors is to understand what all do we mean when we say the semiconductor industry. So there are some boxes that you see. So at the beginning, again, one more comment. Since I have used the resources from internet, it does not mean that everything that you see on this picture is complete or most accurate. Key point is it gives you the general sense about what we are going to speak about. So talking of the semiconductor value chain, as you can see, it is globally distributed, but also there are large number of players. One of the big player happens to be the design or the IP creators, and there are a few names over here. I do not read any one of them, but you can understand. Then there are, let's say, EDA companies. Then one major name that is missing is a Siemens here over here. Then there are equipment manufacturers. A semiconductor process is only as good as the equipment that it can use, and there are the players over here. Again, semiconductors, when we talk of semiconductors, we are talking of the physics, we are talking of chemistry, we are talking of the material science, and the raw materials also come from, let's say, multiple sources. Once you have these basic ingredients, then to design a semiconductor or a chip, you have two ways. Either you can be a fabless company or you can be an IDM. A fabless company is a company which does not have its own manufacturing, as against integrated device manufacturer. They have their own design as well as manufacturing, and you can see some of the players over here. Extreme Right is my company. And there is another business model in semiconductor, and that is of foundries. That means anyone can design, for example, fabless companies can design the chip that they want using the EDA tools, and then they can choose one of the foundries to manufacture their products. So the foundries would provide only the manufacturing services for the ICs. Then, of course, there are large number of, let's say, assembly, testing, and packaging equipment and the measurements that are enabled by different kinds of companies. So just keep in mind, there is a design, then there is equipment, and then there is manufacturing. I build this story on this now. Next point, which is very, very important in terms of, let's say, understanding the value chain, that how globally it is distributed. On the last slide, I said that it is IP, and one of the major IP provider of the world is based in UK, without naming it. What happens after that is that this IP can be used by the fabless firms, any one of those, or even IDMs. And this happens mostly in North America. I mean, this is pointing not to say that in UK only IP design happens, but let's say primarily IP design, primarily chip design part happens in North America. India is mentioned as the verification, but we understand India does verification, but something more as well. And then in between there are, let's say, equipment manufacturer. For example, in Netherlands you have, let's say, ASML, and then in Germany you have large number of companies which are producing gases. Now you see there are gases, there is a equipment, there is a material, and then there are, let's say, manufacturing of the chips and manufacturing of the final systems, and then the word, the market. Of course, market indicated here is Argentina, but this is just to say that from the, let's say, assembly plants, it goes to the entire part of world. So if you just classify that, major part of the design happens in North America, equipment mainly happens in Europe, and manufacturing, packaging, and foundry happens in Asia. And this is an important aspect to keep in mind. Why? If you look at the value added at various stages, the design itself takes care of 53% of the revenues that are generated through semiconductor sales. Foundry services account for, let's say, 24%. Let's say IC packaging is another 6%. Manufacturing equipment, what I said, is concentrated in Europe, is about 11%, and others everywhere else. So what this picture says is that there is a design which could be happening in one part of the world, then the equipment could be coming from another part, and manufacturing is happening in the third part. And manufacturing, even if it is very, very intensive, countries like India are also looking at manufacturing, but we must keep in mind that in terms of revenue, the manufacturing could be just 1/3 of it. This is an important consideration, considering that we are primarily a design company and aiming to be a foundry country as well. With that, I move to the next part, and I will not be reading everything. What it means is that when you design a chip, there are large number of steps that are involved, starting from the wafers that will come from the material companies, then chemical processes like polishing, etching, etc., material deposition, and so on. And this point number 5 is something that is enabled by the equipment makers. You remember that most of them are concentrated in Europe. As a matter of fact, this EU part decides what could be the size of your fab. For example, you hear that there is a 2 nanometer technology, 5 nanometer, 7 nanometer. This is the part that decides it. Now, one may see that it's a mechanical part, so to speak, that how well you are able to, let's say, concentrate the rays in order to etch out something. If it was so simple as it appears while I'm saying, anyone could have done it, but this is very, very complex job. So there are two aspects. Semiconductor manufacturing is complex, but even more complex is creating the equipment that will result into that accuracy, and it is controlled by some nations. And it is important for us to understand that this control is resulting into some kind of trade barriers or enablement as well. Then, of course, this cycle goes on repeating multiple times, and then multiple times would mean that same process is repeated multiple times, so that more number of, let's say, thickness could be, let's say, created and so on. Important point, particularly if there are people from the process side, that the mature processes have a yield of 30 to 80% only. What it means is that when your factory has learned to produce multiple times, and then you work in conjunction with the EDA tools to optimize your designs so that they can be produced for more yield in the factory, even then you get from 30 to 80% only. So what happens when you have a new fab? That means you start really from zero or single digit, and then you go on learning, you go on maturing. This is the cycle that, let's say, continues to goes on. This is the second point that we should keep in mind. Then let's look at the aspect that why each of the country is really rushing behind the semiconductor now. What happened during the COVID times was that there were supply chain disruptions for the reasons that, of course, transportation was restricted, but also COVID taught us that having a chip or not could also mean whether a car can roll out from a plant or not. So entire car could be ready, but maybe this chip of few dollars, if it is not available, the car cannot move out of the plant. So what do you do in this situation? The only way that you can make sure that your car rolls out is to wait for those components to arrive and so on. And this taught the entire world that really the supply chain, because imagine that you have a chip which is ready to be shipped in Taiwan, but it cannot be shipped because somehow the shipment cannot happen for one reason or the other. So that means you have the orders that are given to the foundries, yet you can't receive the chips, and hence you can't even ship out the equipment that is ready to be shipped out from your, if you happen to be, let's say, automaker, but this would be true even for the phone maker and so on. As a result, the world understood in a very, very hard manner that there is a need to have, let's say, larger access to the supply chains. As you saw in one of the cycles, that something is designed in Europe, then America, then Asia, and so on. There is a study which says that a semiconductor that reaches in our hands, it actually transits through about 65 nationalities. If this is the case, and there are 65 nationalities involved, then you can imagine that if one of the blocks is broken for one reason or the other, there would be problem. And as a result of this, also recently we have seen that some of the countries can, let's say, impose the tariffs on others, and then you may not be allowed to buy certain equipments. For example, I was referring to EUV equipment coming from ASML to certain country, and so on. Then you see that all these aspects, semiconductor nationalism is the new word that came in, techno nationalism is another one, and so on. Here you see that India also starts to appear in the chip context. This is still at the global level. This is just to inform you that COVID taught us that there is a need to concentrate, and it was fueled by the fact that there are some countries which are denying the technology or imposing some tariffs, and that are making sure that each of the country is thinking how well we can protect ourselves. This is another very important chart which says that if you look at the new investments that are happening for the reasons that I described on the previous chart, that means COVID and then tariffs and then trade barriers and so on. If you look at the aspects, various countries have started to, let's say, have more investment. This axis says competitive position in the global chip industry. The other axis says relative scale of the fiscal or economic measure to grow chip industry. That means what is the effort that a particular economic bloc is putting in. You look at India. India is very interestingly positioned and only one in this quadrant. What is this quadrant? Country is making large amount of effort, but its own competitive position is not too high. You see, India aspires to be in this block. This block is China, US, Japan, Korea, but India is in this block where, of course, there is a large investment that is happening by the government, but overall, your position is anyway, let's say, not so great as yet. With that, you can imagine that when government is doing certain things, why it is doing. And this comes to us, brings us to the last part, Indian semiconductor landscape. I take this slide from IESA. And this is another aspect, another way of representing what was said about the supply chains before. What I am going to describe over here is that if you look at what happens from, let's say, IP development, EDA tool to all of that up to design layout, this is the part that is happening in the fabless. Good news is that depending on which country is giving forecasts, it is said that between 20 to 30% of the workforce of the design of the entire world is stationed in India, between Bangalore, Noida, Pune, Hyderabad, and so on. So that means we are a very great country in terms of the design talent, not the design, and there is a difference. I said that the US is primarily controlling, let's say, more than 50% of the design output. What does it mean? a chip design or architecture is done in US, then implementation could be done in India. Of course, several chips are being architected even in India, but currently this is far from, let's say, that reality. That is something that we desire. Second is front-end manufacturing. You understand that in Dholera, there is Tata that is coming up and few other in the silicon carbide, they are coming up. Backend or OSAT is something where we have large number of units that have been announced through the ISM and so on. And then there is EMS. And there is a comment over here. Design is something which is easy to be done with the EDA tools. It's more like software centric. Of course, you need hardware knowledge, and India is a great. We produce about 30% of the world's output with about 25% of the entire workforce. EMS is another great point for India. EMS would mean that somehow some company is giving you contract manufacturing, and we are great there as well. And backend and OSAT is little easier or little less costly than the front end. Hence, we are having large number of fabs that are coming in the back end. Front end, only one or two are coming up. This is the overall landscape of what is required in the semiconductor arena and what India is doing and why it is doing. Moving forward, let's look at what is the focus of semiconductors in India. So here you can see this is the government of India, and particularly the ISM slides. There is a focus on semiconductor fabs, display fabs, compound semiconductors, and design linked incentive is there, production linked incentive is there. There have been, let's say, PLI 2.0 schemes, and very recently there is also this electronic component manufacturing scheme. All of these schemes are meant at enabling the ecosystem for the semiconductors. So if I just summarize what I was saying until now, that there is a need for any country to have the front end, back end, gases, material, let's say, produced or silicon ingot produced, and each of the country or each of the economic bloc, whoever is capable of, let's say, putting in more investments, they are trying to put in investments so that they can take care of the war-like situations or tariff-like situations. As a result, this is the answer that India has given to itself. And as a result, you can see that these are the large number of fabs that are coming up with the help of the government. There is a very liberal policy by the government, and these are the places where these companies are coming up. You can see there is a front end, there is a back end that is happening. There is again, a strategic fab and other fabs which are coming up, which are not fully announced or not fully approved as yet. Key point over here is that India is trying its best to come up with large number of fabs. There is about $10 billion worth of investment that government of India is making. But when we say $10 billion, we should not forget that US is making $50 billion investment in creating fabs. China is making another $50 billion, and Europe is making about $40 billion. This is despite the fact that US is already controlling the design part of it, which is more than 53%. And then they are also bringing in more and more manufacturing. And this is the result of the semiconductor nationalism. As a result, you can imagine that there could be a situation that large number of the countries may start to become, let's say, self-sufficient, and then there would be another kind of, let's say, economic situation with respect to the chips that we will hope to see in some years as to what happens when this capacity is put everywhere. I think there would be some kind of rationalization and somehow a redistribution of the supply chains. But India, because of the size and the capability, is well poised. Now, this is just one slide that I kept because there is a large number of slides that one may have about the semiconductor. I just picked one which is on the focus on the packaging. And since many of you are from the universities, you could be participating in the strategic research areas announced by ISM. And the right side is their packaging conference that should happen later this month. And on the left side is that what is the current situation of manufacturing in India and what is the desirable situation for India even in manufacturing. Here you can see that we start to talk of the advanced node. Again, key message on this slide is that there are large number of centers that have come up in various Indian universities, mainly in IITs, and then there are satellite centers, including where some NITs and other colleges are also, let's say, participating. This is only for packaging, but there is a large number of effort already in India, even in the design. As I said before, India is very, very comfortable in terms of its design population. About 25 to 30% of the design population of the entire world is already engaged in design companies in India, independent of whether they are of American origin or European origin or perhaps Japanese origin. Last slide, if you look at the union budget, and now you would be able to understand why India is doing what it is doing. In union budget, 3 days ago, you heard that India would like to move from value addition to value creation. Remember, There is IP creation and then value addition in terms of design, value addition in terms of the verification and implementation of the IC. India is aiming to have full stack Indian IP. That means you are hitting at the core. Electronic component manufacturing scheme has been announced, and there is a uh, dedicated budget for that. Dedicated rare earth corridors have been set up, and this now you imagine that for semiconductor you also need the rare earths. And the scheme to support states in setting up dedicated chemical parks. Why chemical parks? Because in order to have the semiconductor plants running, you also need the purified gases. That's why government of India has taken this kind of step. And my objective of today's presentation was to give you the overview, the complexity, and what Indian government is doing in order to address this, besides the skill part that I think many of you are aware of. Summarizing, semiconductor design to manufacturing is a very complex and capital intensive job. So even if India says that we are saying, let's say 10 billion, we are spending 10 billion, China is spending 50. We should not forget it. Supply chains constraints continue to be there post COVID also. Now there are, let's say, trade barriers that I said before. New manufacturing blocks are emerging. India is one of them. And India has chosen to be a key player in this game. Not everyone is capable of playing this game. India is capable of it. And I think we should be thankful to the government of India that they are, let's say, taking the country in the right path. And I tried to give you the vision that what is the right path and why it is the right path. And of course, product conceptualization holds the key for future. And I personally believe that this aspect of having full stack Indian IP could be a game changer. With that, I close my presentation. Thank you for your patience and listening.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar, for that lovely overview of the entire industry, covering right from the applications to the value chain ecosystem and the value added at each stage. I'm sure our audience will find a lot of value in what you've just presented, and this really sparks our imagination to even learn more about the semiconductor industry. Okay, with that, I would like to now call upon my colleague, Mr. Gauravjit Singh, to share his thoughts on how to publish your research effectively and take it forward from there. And I welcome Gaurav to take the stage. Gaurav, you're on mute.
Thank you, Marvin. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Yes. You can see my screen as well, or no?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay, great. So, thank you, Dr. Kumar. Thank you for the really insightful uh, thoughts,
Uh,
and I
sorry,
really
sorry to
appreciate.
interrupt, Gaurav. Sorry to interrupt. It's gone to your Outlook. Can you come back to the presentation, please?
Can you see that?
Yes, yes, you can just full
Okay,
screen it, please.
thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kumar. As I said, really insightful comments, and I think it makes the it it clears the doubt that what our government is doing and what emphasis we are putting in into this industry. And as we have the audience which is from academicians, researchers, so the important aspect is that how to make your research look global and how to reach the masses. Once you have done the research, how to publish that and how to reach the masses. So my part of the presentation will be basically on how to publish your work, and it will be in form of the book. So I'm not going to talk about the journals at this point of time. It will be purely on the book side. This slide about Taylor and Francis Mervyn has also has already mentioned a lot of things about Taylor and Francis, so I'm not going to get into more details. So I'll just skip this slide and I'll just go direct to the book publishing aspect. So, what are your thoughts of writing a book? So when do you start writing a book, or when you give it a thought? So when we talk to the different researchers, academicians, so we ask them, why have you decided to write a book? So there can be multiple reasons for that. People who are doing research in a particular domain, for example, in semiconductor, they want their research to go global, to travel global, more visibility, more discoverability. So that is why people think that yes, it's right time. I've done quite a lot of research, and it's time to publish a monograph or a reference book. Sometimes academicians, faculty say that I want to publish a textbook because they're not there is no one textbook that can cover an entire uh, portfolio of a subject. So that is where the author says that I want to publish a textbook. And then some people say that I can't write a full book, but I can edit a book wherein I can invite people within my network to write chapters on one unified theme, and we come up with the edited book. And obviously, professionals who are working in the corporate sector, they want to publish their work. They are in the research R&D. Dr. Kumar is into the R&D, and he has published quite a few work as well. So then it comes to professionals. So this is the first beginning of how to write a book, or give it a thought of start writing a book. And once you have given a thought that yes, I want to write a different type of a book, for example, reference or a handbook or a monograph, then you start working on the other aspects of the book, which is like what should be the table of content for your book. So how you design the table of content is you start writing the keywords, and then you develop the keywords into the table of content. So that is one of the techniques of developing a table of content. If you're not clear what exactly you want to get into the table of content, so you note down say 20, 30 keywords, and then you cut down on from 30 to 15, and then you elaborate on those 15 keywords, and then you come up with say 10 to 12 chapters of a book. The next step is choosing the title of a book, which is very important, because you don't want a title to give a picture, or uh, to be more broader title. So if you're writing a research oriented books, the title should be crisp and it should not be lengthy. Then, depending on the kind of a book that you're writing, there is a competition, which means that there will be someone who has already published a say monograph or a textbook or a reference book in a particular subject, for example in semiconductor or in other subject areas. So how your book is different from the competition, that is something which you have to be very clear. You don't want to publish another book in a say subject where there are already hundreds of books. So if you are writing a book, if you're putting in the efforts, because writing and publishing a book is not a like 2 or 3 months task. It's a long term commitment for writing and publishing a book. So you need to have a good sense of competition, what exactly the competition is and how your work is different from the competition. And then you set a deadline. Okay, I want to uh, write in 1 year, or I want to write in 2 years, or I want to publish finish in 6 months time. So that is very important to setting up a deadline for anything. And then also number of pages. So people normally think that I want to write a book, but I want to be like writing a 500-page book. So that is not necessary, because less is more. So right now in this scenario, in this situation, or in the current situation, so if you are publishing a book which is say anywhere between 150 to 200, 300, 350 is good enough. Normally the monographs are not like 300 pages, so they are 100, 150 to 200 pages as well. So this is how you start, and this is basically your book proposal form. So when we talk to a prospective author, and when we discuss all these things, and then we share our proposal form to the author, so they have to input all these things into a proposal form and submit it to the publisher, which is to Taylor and Francis. This is just a barcode which I've slide showing a barcode which I've put in here. So if you scan this, then you will get access to our resource which says how to write a successful book proposal. So what happens once you have filled the proposal form and once you have submitted it to the publisher, and what will be the next step? Obviously, the first step will be the internal review process, wherein Taylor and Francis editor will review the proposal. In case there are any changes, that will be conveyed to the author. If everything is fine, then it will go for a international or external peer review process, wherein we go for single blind review where the reviewer's name is hidden from the author. Uh, the prospective authors do ask us how many reviews we need. So the response is that it depends on project, book to books. For a textbook, we normally go for 5 to 6 reviews. For a research monograph or a reference book, 3 to 4 reviews. The timeline for the reviews can be from 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes if if the title of the book, or if it is a very specified, very specialized book, then it can take up to 10 to 12 weeks as well. And the authors do ask us that once we get the reviews, if the reviews are not positive, or if the reviewer says something which I don't agree, do I have to incorporate that? So the answer is no. It's not mandatory for you to incorporate all the suggestions given by the reviewers. But having said that, you must give a detailed response that why you don't agree with the reviewers. Sometimes the reviewers might mention that add XYZ topics which might not be the fit for the book. So then you have to give a detailed response. So these don't fit within the scope of the book. So that is what you have to do. uh, why do proposals get rejected? There are multiple factors for the proposal to get rejected. The primary factor is that if a proposal is not filled in properly, not thought of properly. Before you submit a proposal form, you have to do a research, you have to be very clear on what all you have to put it into the proposal, and then you submit it. A bad review cannot hurt the chances of getting a book published, but a bad review can help you to revise your proposal, make it more appealing to the reviewers. So what I feel is that a bad review always help you to revise the proposal. And the last question that the prospective authors do ask us, what are you expected to do when you get the reviews? So once we get the reviews, we share it with the authors and we get the authors to respond to the reviewers' feedback. Then it comes to the writing phase. Once the reviews are done, everything is done, we get the contract signed and everything is done. Then it comes to the writing phase, and most of the authors, they don't intend to publish a book because they think that writing a book will take all their time and they won't be able to concentrate on the academics and their research and all those things. But that is not the right case. So writing can vary from author to author. So publishers allow authors good enough time to write a book. So we are very flexible with the timing. So if you want 1 year, 1.5 year, 6 months, 9 months, you can take your time. Once you start writing a manuscript, once you have got sample chapters, we request our authors to share a sample chapter with us so that we can have a look and to just give a feedback whether they are going in the right direction or not. Understanding the author guidelines is very important. When we sign the contract, we share guidelines with the author so that they are aware of the things that we need when the manuscript is submitted. And if the authors have any questions about the guidelines, we always encourage them to be in touch with us, ask questions, as many questions that they want to ask, and then they submit the manuscript to us. So once the manuscript is submitted, so there are different processes after that. Obviously, pre-production review, production review. So in the pre-production review, we go through the entire manuscript to see if everything is prepared as per the guidelines. Once it is done, then it is handed over to the production where a project editor will be assigned to a particular book who will be in touch with the author during the course of the publication process. Then typesetting, copy editing is done. After that, we share the proofs with the authors. Then cover design is done. Once it is everything cover design is done, then it is off to the printer and the book get released worldwide. So prospective authors do ask us multiple questions, and they have a very they have questions like uh, do their manuscripts will be reviewed. We get the proposal reviewed, and then the royalties part. So whether the authors get the royalties, yes, we do give royalties to the authors. Copyright permission is very important. Authors do intend to ask us how to take the copyright permission. Do I have to take a permission for the content that I have already published? So we tell them that yes, if you have already published a content, or if you have already published a research paper and you want to use some content from that, you need to take permissions for that. We do give away complimentary copies to the authors. Timelines I've already mentioned. Uh, we ask authors to provide us chapter abstracts. They are not included in the book, but they are used for the promotional, for the marketing material. Indexing, again, very important aspect for the researchers, for uh, academicians who are looking to publish a book. We do submit all our books to Scopus and Web of Science for the indexing. The last point I put it here is the role of editor in a contributed book. So it's yeah, I would like to emphasize here that it's not only an editor's job to just tell the people within their network to write a chapter. So the editor role goes beyond that. He or she has to be responsible and take out the authorship of the book and coordinate with the authors, make sure that the content that has been received uh, goes well within the theme of the book. So this is if you go on our website, these are some of the resources that we have uploaded on our website, which are free for anybody to download. So if you can see, there is a resource which says how to navigate your success from PhD to a book, navigating your success in academic blogging, uh, how you can promote your own book on social media. So all these resources are freely available for anybody to download once you have published a book, or once you are started thinking of writing a book. So you can go to our website and you can download any of the resource that you want. Now, coming to the last bit of my presentation is AI and academic publishing. So the use of AI tools in research and writing is an evolving practice, and AI tools, based tools and technologies, not only LLMs but general AI or chatbots like ChatGPT, have been used in academic publishing as well. And Taylor and Francis recognizes the increased use of AI tools in academic research. As the world's leading publisher of human-centric science, we consider that such tools, when used appropriately and responsibly, have the potential to augment research output and thus foster progress through knowledge. But having said that, it is again authors who are accountable for the originality, validity, and integrity of the content of their submission. In choosing the use of AI tools, authors are expected to do so responsibly. So we expect the authors to understand this, that they have the accountability for the content. AI in academic publishing. So how authors commonly use AI tools? So they can use AI tools for different reasons, like for assisted research, whereas they can use literature review or topic curation. They can use it for editing, proofreading, formatting to translation, personalized content recommendation. They can use it. They can also use AI to make research and writing easier. So there should be a responsible usage of AI if you are working or if you are using it for your research work. Your authors are accountable, as I've already covered that. So whenever you are using AI, you have to make sure that you are using it to enhance your work. You are not using it to start creating your work. So that is very important aspect when you are working or when you are using any of the AI tools. Publishing policy key guidelines. So as I mentioned already, that authors are accountable for the originality. Submission should meet the required standards of rigorous scientific and scholarly assessment, research, and validation. Generative AI tools must not be listed as authors, which is very important because such tools are unable to assume responsibility. So as I've said that authors can use tools to polish their work, but they should not use their tools to create ideas to generate their work. Authors must clearly acknowledge within the article or book any use of generative AI tools. So as I said that do not use AI to write your book, as it cannot replace human intelligence or human authorship or judgment in developing the book's key arguments, analysis, or case studies. Use it as a supportive tool, and all output should be manually reviewed and revised to ensure originality and adherence to the academic standards. So again, I would emphasize that uh, you can't run away from the fact that AI is used everywhere, and it is same for the publishing industry as well. But again, use it responsibly. Make sure that you use AI to help your work, not to create your work. Uh, Evolving publishing standards and best practices. So publishing ethics. So I'll just put up a slide for ethics. What are the different ethics that we look at? Data integrity, which is very important. So you have to make sure that the data that you are including in your work is original. You are not fabricating that data. Authorship concerns. Sometimes people do bring on authors called as ghost authors. So please be aware of that. Plagiarism, again, a very, very important aspect in publishing. Even if you are using your own published work in your book, it can be self-plagiarism. So always make sure that whatever is original, which has not been published anywhere, you can use it. But if you're using something which has already been published, you need to take permissions for that. Obviously, reuse of the third-party content, you can't use it without taking permission. You still have to give references, but permission is mandatory. Paper mills, try to stay away from that. Uh, which is coming up a very big issue for all the publishers. So try to stay away from the paper mills as well. Uh, the last slide I have is on plagiarism again. Committee on Publishing Ethics defines plagiarism as it ranges from unreferenced use of others' published and unpublished ideas, including research grant applications to submission under new authorship of a complete paper, sometimes in a different language. So we hear a lot about the plagiarism, but it is unauthorized reproduction in whole or some section of your work. So if you're citing previous work in your paper, ensure that you're giving a proper clear references for that and you're taking proper permissions for that. If you're using figures from any of your paper published or tables from any of your paper published, again you need permissions to use that. So if you think that it's my paper, I publish it, and the copyright remains with me, that is not the case. So please be aware of the fact that self plagiarism is can be a big issue as well. With that, Mervin, I end my presentation. So this is the last slide. So if you have any questions, you can just drop me an email or you can just drop in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Gaurav, for your valuable insights. I'm sure our audience is now better equipped to optimize their own publishing journey with your ideas. I request everybody to, we have dropped in all the relevant links and the contact information on the chat window in this meeting. And so then you can anytime drop an email to either Gaurav or to myself, and what we will do is we will forward your questions to Dr. Manoj Kumar as well. But let's jump into the Q&A part of the webinar. And Dr. Manoj Kumar, I think there's a question in here for you. It's asked by Mr. Kapil Kumar Badolia from Mansoor University. He's asking, is India's first chip fabrication plants expected by 2030? So, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is true. I mean, no need to have any thoughts. This is a statement in the public domain that first chips should be out as early as even late part of this year. And then, as I said, depending on if it is, let's say, ATMP or the front end, there is a different aspect. By the way, the ATMP first chips were, let's say, already shipped out of the Keynes Semiconductor even last year. So it's not to say that India's first chip is not ready, but I think the question is more about what is happening with respect to the Tata's fab, which is coming up in Dholera, Gujarat. They should be ready, so there is no doubt on that. Until now, we understand that it is on schedule for the production. Was this the question?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
I think that answers the question. We have another quick question here, which is asked by Mr. Rajkumar. He's asking, is there any hopeful future by combining a semiconductor device with deep tech for a future role?
Well, I think this is the current requirement. Why future? So I think the questions themselves are actually having answer. I mean, the deep tech is enabled by semiconductor, by AI, by data centers, by everything. If you look at it today, if we are talking of, let's say, any kind of technology, Gaurav was also mentioning usage of AI with respect to publication, but there is usage of AI at the edge. There is usage of AI at the data centers, memories, and everything. So essentially, all the backbone of the deep tech is around semiconductors and enabled by semiconductors. And this is current, not even future.
Right. Thank you for that.
Future could be, by the way, further accentuated with the usage of, let's say, quantum technologies and so on. So that will be far more interesting, far more challenging, because whatever is coming in terms of the cryptography, it's something that needs days to years to months to break. Today could be broken in less than an hour, for example, with quantum computing. That will create new challenges, but that is the future.
Right. There are a few more questions, but in the interest of time, we will direct these questions either to Gaurav or to you, Dr. Manoj, based on the relevance. So I'd like to quickly ask my colleague to share the open access resources presentation that we have. Just in the interest of time, we will take up the questions via email. I request the audience to drop in all your questions. We will definitely be answering them on email, and you will get a response from us. In the meantime, I just want to quickly take you through what open access resources are available for anybody. So I request to then go to the next slide. So we have a dedicated semiconductor resource hub on our taylorandfrancis.com website. If you can scan the QR code, it will take you right there. We will also be sharing this PPT with everybody, so you have access to all the links and all the resources. So if you visit this website and you register on this, you will. This webinar is just the first step in a much larger conversation around the semiconductor ecosystem and research publishing. publishing. So if you register here, it'll keep you up to date with the latest happening and the latest offerings from Taylor and Francis when it comes to semiconductor research. Next slide, please. And so what you see here on the page is the homepage of our Taylor and Francis Journals website, which is tnfonline.com. TNF currently has 270 plus gold open access journals and 2100 plus hybrid journals for researchers to read and submit their manuscripts for publication. So if you see the highlighted journals word there, that drop down menu, you click on that and you'll find the open access journals section there through which you can immediately read and access and all the journals and the articles there. Next slide, please. Uh, TaylorFrancis.com is our ebooks platform where, again, if you see the highlighted browse word, if you click on that drop down menu, you will be able to access our whole collection of open access ebooks, which are 5,200 plus ebooks and 54,000 plus chapters available with a click of a button on our ebooks platform. Next slide. And for all the faculty members who are part of the audience, this is our Taylor and Francis complimentary e-inspection copy program, where if you, we've included a sample link at the bottom, but if you just click on the link on the top, it will take you to a specific inspection copy page where you can look up a book title based on your subject area and then follow very simple steps by clicking on that button, which is highlighted on the page in red by requesting the inspection copy. And it's a very simple form that you have to fill. And the ebook version of that particular title gets delivered to your inbox where you can assess it for any future courses and make informed decisions. And we will be sharing, that's the end of the webinar here today. We will be sharing all the resources with everybody on email. So thank you everyone very much for attending. And I offer my thanks to our speakers for their valuable insights. We got to learn a lot, and I'm certain that this is just the start of a much larger collaboration and conversation that we need to have. Thank you everyone for your valued time, and we can end the presentation here.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Barvin. Thank you,
Thank
Gaurav.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mohan. Thank you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
everyone.